Good morning, NCGCC's family. It's a wonderful Saturday morning, and we're so delighted that you've joined us this morning for the 87th National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. Today, we're going to have our virtual classes, and certainly we're delighted that you have tuned in to join us. And first of all, we hope that you have been blessed by this week. If you have been blessed, certainly comment in the chat lines, both on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube at www.youtube.com, NCGCC Inc., as well as you can find us on our Facebook page. And certainly we're broadcasting on our new partnership with 360wise TV at www.360wisetv.com, as well as you can download the app to your mobile phone. So look, we got an exciting morning planned for you from 10 as well as from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, that we're excited that you've joined us for these multiple classes. I just want to introduce some of the folk that will be with us. Certainly coming up very quickly is Dr. Alfie Brendan Noble. She is a noted psychiatrist, scientist, and she's going to be sharing with us about COVID and mental health. After that, we're going to have Earl Bynum, who's sharing with us at 11 o'clock. He's an international recording artist, and he's going to be talking about the church choir singing in a strange land during and after the pandemic virtual singing. At 11:30, Alpheus Anderson will join us with effective music ministry for children, youth, and teens. You don't want to miss that. If you have children, and talk to those who are with children as well. It's going to be a wonderful time at that. At 12 o'clock, Dr. Winston Gray will be sharing to the ministers of music, directors of music, of how we're leading during strange and challenging times as such. At 12:30, stay tuned for the one and the only Dr. David Frazier. He's a noted musician. We're going to talk about his music as well, but he's here to share with us about gospel songwriting. 1 o'clock, stay tuned for Bishop Guy Robinson, who's sharing to the church musicians, musicianship, and service flow. How do musicians need to understand service flow in ministry? And then rounding the afternoon, open at 1:30, we do have Minister Philip Carter, a noted author and composer, who's going to be sharing about technology, live streaming, and enhancing broadcasting online. So you want to stick around again from now until 2 o'clock and get your coffee. I know that if we're usually at convention right now, we would be at convention with, this would be our third hour of our classes from the Althea Hutchinson's Althea Hutchinson's Training Institute. Woo! But so this will be the third class, and so we're delighted that you've joined us for all day. Get your cup of coffee, breakfast, and sit there and begin to share with us. I don't want to waste time. I want to bring on very quickly Dr. Alfea Brendan, and let me just read a little bit about her bio for you. Dr. Alfie is an international recognized scientist, author, media personality, and speaker, with a primary focus on teens, college students, family, and community of color. She is recognized for her remarkable abilities to motivate and inspire by translating complex scientific concepts into everyday language. Her media works includes television appearances on NBC, PBS, Fox 2 in Detroit, A&E, the Life Channel television, social impacts, Soul Pancake, and celebrity podcasts is Getting Better with Ron Finches. Print media, Black Enterprise, and Philadelphia Inquirer, and so much more, as well as radio. She's the founder and board president of the you're going to help me say this when she comes on, ACOMA Project Incorporated. And Dr. Alfie and her team has built a research enterprise founded on the science of adolescence and community engagement. She was part of the senior leadership team with the Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman and the Congressional Black Caucus on the report Ring the Alarm and the Pursuing Equality in Mental Health Act of 2019. Dr. Alfie received her training at Howard University, New York University, the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and Duke University School of Medicine, and she believes deeply that her culturally relevant science can help all people actualize the love and light within them. It's such an honor. Why don't you welcome with us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Alfie.
Good morning. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be an exciting hour. There are so many ways that we can talk about mental health and these COVID issues that are going on. And certainly many people have been locked up in the house for so long, and it can get rough, for lack of a better word, of being locked up all this time. So why don't you greet us? I'm going to turn this time over to you. Share with us this exciting time, and I'm glad that you're with us this morning.
Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate you. So, yes, I'm not going to belabor the point. I appreciate the introduction. It is wonderful to be here with you all. And I'm going to speak probably for about 35 minutes. And I'm really hoping that people will put questions in the chat so that we can have a little bit of dialogue. So I'll look forward to coming back, having you come back, sir, and you and I engage a little bit more. So with that, I'm going to share my screen with you all. Hopefully this is going to work, and we'll have an opportunity to have some good dialogue. So I'm looking at my lighting. It's not the best. Y'all forgive me. I'm going to make sure everybody can see. Okay, that might be, there we go. That's a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you, and then we're going to get started. Okay. Here we go. There we go. All right, so I'm going to talk briefly with everyone today about taking care of our mental health as Black people, as people of color, under coronavirus and under this dual pandemic. Because remember, we're talking about dual pandemics. It's not just the virus. It is also what we're experiencing as Black people, with other folks awakening to the concept of there's this thing called racism that Black folks been dealing with for 11 million years. And so we're going to be honest about that. Mental health is not a topic that we talk about a lot in our communities. I don't think that's any secret. But today, for the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses, it is my pleasure to be here to have the opportunity to speak with you about this issue of mental health. Okay. So when we think about mental health, when we think about what our goals are for today, I want us to think about three things. First, I want us to name the issues. I want to talk a little bit about, and I hope you'll get your notebooks out. And if you get your notebooks out, then you'll have an opportunity to jot down some information, because I'm going to share quite a bit of information with you that I hope you will continue to utilize. We're going to talk about the challenges. I'm all about sharing solutions, right? I don't believe you just talk about the problems, right? Because God doesn't put us here just to deal with problems. God gives us people, places, opportunities, and things to help us find solutions. And I really feel like, how we always say in the Black church, faith without works. And so we have to be active in terms of taking care of ourselves. And I say often when I do public speaking and am on television that dealing with mental health requires what we call active coping. You don't sit back and just say, Jesus, help me, and don't do nothing, right? Nothing in our lives works like that. So we want to try to talk about what can we do to make things better. And then finally, we want to have an opportunity for you all to put questions. I think my colleague, Mr. Rodney, is going to pitch your questions to me. So as we're going through, be thinking of questions, write them in notebooks, stick them in the chat, and we'll have an opportunity for me to try to answer some of them. Okay, so with that, I want to tell you a little bit about what ACOMA is. He did a wonderful job describing ACOMA. ACOMA is an organization. It's a nonprofit. We're on the web, acomaproject.org. You can see how ACOMA is spelled. And our mission statement is we want to help diverse teens and their families, right? So we know in Black community, teenagers don't just show up by themselves. Teenagers always come with mamas and daddies and grandmas and grandpas and aunties and uncles and everybody. And so we want to make sure that as we think about our teenagers, we're also thinking about the communities that they come from and the experiences that they come from. in terms of their culture, their background. I also like to be clear when I'm talking about my people. It's a lot of us from a lot of different communities, right? We're not all just African American. Although I'm very proud to be African American and a descendant of people who were brought here in chains and enslaved and came up from slavery, that's not all of our experience. So some of us come from the Caribbean, right? We got Caribbean brothers and sisters who are Black. Some of us are Black Latinx, right? Rodney is fluent in Spanish, which is so impressive. Mi español está mal, pero yo estoy aprendiendo. My Spanish is terrible, but I'm learning. And so it's important to acknowledge our brothers and sisters who are Latinx, many of whom worship with us. It's also important to acknowledge multiracial Black folks. Like, I got to shout out my sorority sister and my fellow Howard University graduate, Miss Kamala Harris, who is multiracial. She identifies as a Black woman, but she's Indian and Black. Those are Black folks too. And then finally, Mother Africa, our brothers and sisters who've immigrated to the United States from the continent, from many, many, many different countries, right? And I live in the Northern Virginia area. We have large populations of Eritrean Black folks, Ethiopian Black folks. And so it's important, and Somalian Black folks. And so it's important to acknowledge the fullness of who we are as Black people. So I'm talking about all of us, our whole Black family. So when we think about this, our mission statement is to engage in dialogue, learning, which is bi-directional. It's not just I go out and teach people. I learn things every time I do a presentation, a speech, when we do research. I'm always learning from you all. And so it's important to me that that dialogue and that learning are always bi-directional. And the most important thing with the coma is to recognize that everyone deserves care and support. Everybody, right? Nobody should be left outside of that. All right. So when we look at mental health, and then we're going to get into a little bit of coronavirus, the other pandemic of racism, and just what we've been dealing with. A lot of us who are Americans, Rodney and I were talking about this right before we started, view mental health as a privilege. It's only for certain people. Well, we know that that's not true, right? And so part of what our mission is with the ACOMA Project is to help everybody understand that I talk about optimal mental health. We're trying to reach the highest level of mental health, and it's individualized, the highest level of mental health that each of us can achieve. And so when we're thinking about mental health, we want to be thinking about how people conceptualize it and think about it as that's for them other people. I'm not going to call any racial groups, but many of us think that has nothing to do with us. And I want to help people let go of that idea because it's not true. We also have this thing in my home. We are members of two churches. One of our church homes is Mount Olive in Northern Virginia. We love that church. Pastor Victor is amazing. Pastor James E. Victor is fantastic. And we have probably one of the most awesome music ministers in the whole world. I'm just going to shout him out, even though I'm not going to say his name, but he know his initials are riding with me. So at Mount Olive, I feel like it's a really welcoming space. And we try to create that same kind of welcoming space as part of ACOMA through the work that we do, because we know mental illness is so stigmatized. So we also know that regardless of background, everyone deserves optimal mental health. And that's what we do at ACOMA. How do we define optimal mental health? We define it as recognizing mental health challenges when they show up, understanding where to go for help, and then supporting our friends and loved ones to seek help. That's what we're all about with the ACOMA Project. So how do we communicate our message? I like to share this slide because I want people to know that there are lots of ways to communicate the message, particularly when the message is so difficult to grasp, right? Because so many people don't believe in the importance of mental health. So we have opportunities. I have opportunities. One of these pictures with the one with the most people in it is to work on policy issues on Capitol Hill. You heard Rodney describe the work that I'm currently doing with the Congressional Black Caucus, where we're trying to pass a bill about taking care of Black folks' mental health. That literally is the focus of the bill, the equity and pursuing equity and mental health bill, out of the office of Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who's the representative from New Jersey. She is an amazing sister. For those of you who are in sorority, she is I think she's a Delta. She's a Delta Sigma Theta woman, I believe. And it's really important for me to acknowledge how much her work means to all of us who've been out here in this space trying to fight for Black folks' mental health for many, many years. So the bottom right picture that you see is from Katie Porter's office. She's a representative from California. We had a chance to have a conversation and a briefing, and it was pretty well populated. Then you see the one The only one that anybody really cares about is I had the opportunity to do the town hall of Anderson Cooper and Sanjay Gupta with Taraji Henson. And on that's on the web. You can find it on my website if you're interested in the clip, if you haven't seen it. We talk about, and she really expresses, the reason I think the clip is so good is because she expresses the angst and the anxiety that all of us are feeling, the sadness, right? And this happened right at the end of May, right after our brother George Floyd was murdered. And so, what Taraji talked about was how difficult it was for all of us to experience that. And so it's important for us, for people like me, to have the opportunity to be out in public, to share with people, it's a lot that we're dealing with in the context of coronavirus and this dual pandemic. And so we've got to have conversations. And so my push for you, my wish for you is that you all will have conversations in your homes if you're not already. Talk to your children about what they're seeing. Limit how much news the children watch. We have teenagers in our home, as I said, and we try to monitor and limit how much they're in front of that television, consuming that news, because news is never positive. It's rarely positive. So it's really important for us to have multiple ways, in summary, of reaching out to people and getting the message to them that mental health is important, especially for those of us who are Black. So when I talk about the mental health needs, shifting gears a teeny bit, the mental health needs of people of color, what's really important is to note that under COVID-19, Black people, through research we've discovered, right? Some of it's like real rigorous scientific ebony and ivory tower type of research, but some of it's really just like Pew Charitable Trust, going out and asking people, how are you feeling? Or some of these news surveys. So we know under COVID-19, Black people in particular have elevated depressive symptoms, even if we don't label ourselves as depressed, right? I feel like it's important to talk about what depression looks like really quickly. So that's significant changes in our eating habits. You eat a whole lot more, right? I've heard lots of talk about the quarantine thing. Everybody's gaining a little bit of weight under coronavirus because we're stuck in the home and we're stressed. And a lot of us, when we get stressed, we eat. And so I want people to know that it is not abnormal for eating to be a reaction to stress, right? We just have to be careful and monitor when it starts to get out of our control, right? So changes in eating habits, changing in sleeping habits, you're sleeping a whole lot more or a whole lot less. Changes in your mood, where you have really low mood all the time. So I just want to articulate to people, these are some of the symptoms of depression. But remember, it's not just one. You have to have a bunch of them. I would say if you have 3 or 4 or more that last over a period of time, that's when you want to start thinking about, maybe I need to talk to somebody. And we'll talk a teeny little bit about where you can go when we get towards the end. But I want to make sure I'm mentioning to you what some of these depressive symptoms look like in teenagers and sometimes in adults. This is a biggie, because sadness and looking down and shrinking are not acceptable behaviors. People get angry. So sometimes depression looks like that person who everything gets on their last nerve all day, every day. They're always angry and nobody knows why, right? Sometimes that's a symptom of depression. Also thoughts of death, maybe not wanting to hurt themselves, but they're kind of consumed with death. Or thinking about things like, I just wish I wasn't here anymore. I wouldn't have to deal with this, right? These are all things. And remember what I said, you want to have a group of them together over a period of time. That's how you start to think, okay, maybe I need to go talk to somebody. For Black folks under coronavirus and these dual pandemics, we're also dealing with elevated anxiety. If you could see my face, you could see me pointing at myself, and you would hear me say that I am a person who represents the face of anxiety, right? It runs in my family. I'm super anxious, right? And so when we're thinking about anxiety, it's the easiest way I can describe it is your garden variety worry ward. Worry about everything, right? Even if there's nothing to worry about, they find something to worry about. So these are the kinds of things you want to be paying attention to. And then finally, obviously, an increased exposure to trauma. You can be traumatized by watching the news and watching the videos on social media of our brother George Floyd. So I encourage people, I actually beg and implore people, don't watch that on a loop. And people will say, oh, well, I need to be informed, Dr. Alfie. Yes, you do need to be informed, but you don't need to be so informed that you're watching that stuff repeatedly. It's important to get your news in bites, get the headlines, and then you have to leave it alone. Even though I know I have one in my home, people who are news junkies. But what I want you to understand is the more of that stuff that you consume, it also can be traumatizing. We call that secondary trauma, where you're not directly involved in the trauma, and we call it vicarious trauma. So you can be traumatized watching somebody else have a horrible experience. So it's important to recognize that. And all of this clearly because of our sister Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, all the things that we're seeing. Christian Cooper, even though he didn't die, he was assaulted by that woman. Every time there's a new, air quotes, Karen that shows up, that's traumatizing for us as Black people. So it's important to recognize we as Black people have been traumatized by some of these experiences, and to just acknowledge that. So I'm not going to play the video because I'm scared to do too many different iterations of going into cyberspace. But I had the opportunity to talk about some of these issues that we as Black people are dealing with on CNN with Jake Tapper in the earlier part of June. So I would encourage you to go watch that. It's a quick 4 or 5 minute clip. Again, that's a clip you can find on my website, dralfie.com. But I think it speaks to what our experience is. I think what's unique about it is, for me, I'm Generation X. This is the first time that I can remember other people, outside of Black folks, actually caring that we were traumatized. I can remember many years when lots of us would say it and nobody cared. So what's different this time is that for a moment in time, we have people's ear. All right. So we're going to go on and talk a little bit about what are some of the issues and how do you take care of yourself? Okay. So when we think about the issues under coronavirus, I think the most important thing to acknowledge is how this virus has ravaged the Black community. I mean, ravaged. It has just decimated our community in ways that it has not other communities. We have to be honest about that. We have to acknowledge that that's the thing. I have this saying, you call a thing a thing. We have to acknowledge that coronavirus is impacting us much worse than it's impacting many other communities, with the exception of Pacific Islanders. Out in California in particular, they have worse death rates from coronavirus than even African Americans, Black people. So we have to name what the issue is. So issue one, we are the hardest hit by this coronavirus illness. If not the hardest hit, then probably close to the hardest hit. The measures that have been proposed to stop the spread, we keep talking about flattening the curve, even though in some places it's not happening. They cause more harm in some ways, which I will explain, to Black people and people of color. And then the final issue is that those first two issues, as I went through great length to describe earlier, have a tremendous negative mental health impact on Black people, African Americans, and other people of color. So those are some of the issues. Issue one, in terms of Black people being the hardest hit, this is the picture. I have the credit from the New York Times. They did a story probably in mid-June where they talked about the disproportionate impact of coronavirus on African Americans, and talked about families and how families were coping. So I feel like it's important to say these folks' names. This man here is Burnell Scales. He's the father-in-law of a person who died from coronavirus. You see, he's sitting, he's okay. But the son-in-law, not so much. So it's just to put a face on it and to say, probably many of you who are watching and listening know people who've been impacted, maybe even have lost people, which I'm really sorry that has been your experience. So even though I can't see you, I want you to know that you're in my prayers, you're in my thoughts, like you are, I'm sure, for most of us. And so it's important to acknowledge that this virus is really having a horribly negative impact on us as Black people. It's also important for us to acknowledge that the kinds of measures that we've been encouraged to follow have a negative impact on Black people. So one is, initially, you remember, there was no reporting on racial data. We didn't know how the virus was impacting different communities of color. Now we do know. And what the data has told us is that it's really harming us as Black people. Second, it is what access to resources. This is an issue, right? This idea of if you come from a community where people don't understand how to take care of your health as well as they do other people. We know this to be the case. We call that health disparities. Then when you go in for treatment, I can remember a family member very early on who had been hospitalized right around the time. And as a matter of fact, my family member got discharged the same week that we went on stay-at-home orders in the state of Virginia. asked repeatedly to have a coronavirus test right before he was discharged, because it was right around the time everything was bubbling up, and they kept arguing that he didn't need it, right? And so, if you're Black and you know how we're treated by the medical community, right? Which I've worked at 2 different hospitals, so I'm a part of that community. Then that has a negative impact on your mental health, because you're trying to fight for your health and you have people fighting in the opposite direction, telling you that you don't know what's best for you. So that access to resources piece is important. Finally, there's this idea of physical distancing, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about how physical distancing has negative impacts on us as Black people as well. All right. And then when we think about those first 2 issues, those 2 issues together, right? The news reporting, the access to resources, and the physical distancing, all of these things have a negative impact on us as Black people with our mental health, right? And so too much news, as I said earlier, elevates your stress level. If you don't have good access to resources and people are not willing to provide the same level and high standard of care to you as a Black person as they might be to other people, that complicates your self-care. And then the physical distancing takes away our opportunity to engage in some of the kinds of activities that Black people and people of color, right? People of racial, ethnically diverse backgrounds. It takes away your ability to engage in those healing practices, right? That are culturally rooted, that are a part of your culture, because you can't be with people physically. All right. So we're about 2/3 of the way through. When we think about solutions and strategies, we're going to talk. Remember how I said we don't just talk about the negative stuff. We're going to talk about how do we deal with it. And so why is it important to think about taking care of your mental health in the context of these dual pandemics? Well, part of it is because there's never a bad time to think about taking care of your mental health. That should be an active part of our regular routine. There shouldn't ever be a time when that's not centered and a part of our mental health. The second thing is thinking about how do you how do you take care of your mental health, and what do you do? It's important for me to share some ideas about what to do, because I want us to walk away from this conversation with something practical. I don't want us walking away feeling like, oh my God, it's all doom and gloom, this is horrible. I want you to know that there are things that you can do to take care of yourself. All right. So the first thing I want everyone to remember is we talk about marginalized with an ED on it communities. That does not mean that you as a person are marginal. I feel like it's really important to say that, because so much of what we hear these terms like underserved communities, underrepresented, under this, under that. And the idea is it's just supposed to be a reflection of we don't have the same access to resources, and we're not prioritized in the same way as some other communities when we're Black, African American, or come from communities of color. So it's important for me to say, that acknowledge that we as Black folks, we come from communities of color. And so we're not marginal. Our population, our community is marginalized. People actively work to push our community to the margins, but that's not who we are. That doesn't mean we're marginal. So that's really key and really important. It's important in terms of thinking through the hows to recognize and acknowledge that we come from, when we're Black or African American or Black Caribbean, Black African, Black Latinx, we come from cultures built on survival, built on resilience, and built on strong practices, right? So that's important. You already have many of the tools that you need to center and take care of your mental health. And so we want to make sure that we honor, right, and respect those aspects of who you are, those aspects of where you come from that you can utilize to take care of yourself. All right. So what is the first how? The first how is to think about, we need to stay connected, right? You got to stay connected. Now, this is a family, so they're allowed to hold hands and be close together, right? Because physical distancing is when it's not our family, not the people who are quarantined with us. So the first thing is, remember, do not shrink, right? There are passages in the Bible that talk about not hiding our light, making sure that who we are as people, we allow that to shine, because God, right? Fearfully and wonderfully made. If you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you don't hide that. You share that with people, right? And so part of it is we have to stay connected. There is a tendency, I think, for many of us, including people like me, When I get anxious, too anxious, I don't want to be bothered with anybody. So I start to isolate and withdraw. When people have depression, right? That depression lies to us. That depression will tell us, oh, you a Debbie Downer, don't nobody want to be around you, or, you Martin Miserable, nobody want to be around you. That's not true, right? People want to be around you. They want to care for you. They want to love you. They want to help you, but they can't help you if you're not communicating with them, if you're isolating yourself. And so that staying connected, that connectedness is critical. So we don't shrink, right? We remember in this moment, being proud doesn't serve anybody, right? And you know how we get, especially those of us of a certain age. I can do it, when you're little, I can do it all by myself. Like you have little kids, like that's how my kids used to, I can do it by myself, mommy. Well, this is not the time to do it all by yourself, right? It's not helpful to be so proud that you don't allow somebody to go to the grocery store for you if you're immunocompromised. It is not the time to be so proud that you don't let somebody from church, for example, pay for that medication that you can't afford, right? If they're offering, it is incumbent upon us. As a matter of fact, we have a duty to accept the help, right? So pride is not helpful. For those of us who have the capacity, pick up the phone and call somebody, right? There's somebody right now in your life who would benefit from hearing from you, just hearing your voice, just hearing, we have this intuition in our community. We have to use our intuition. If there's somebody you've been thinking about, they just popped into your head, maybe today is the day to call them. Sometimes for all my young people, my millennials who might be listening, sometimes it helps to call instead of just text or instead of just sending them a DM. Sometimes what they really need to hear is your voice. And you can say, look, baby, I got 5 minutes, girlfriend, whatever, my dude, I got 5 minutes. We got to be off this call in 5 minutes, but I want you to know I was thinking about you, right? You can set boundaries, but I think the key is the connectedness, right? And many of us, it's okay to remember we all need help. We all need help. So sometimes we have to just have the courage, right? Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the fortitude to push through, work through the fear and do the thing even though you're scared, right? So to develop the courage to ask somebody for help for something that you may need help for. And then finally, to make utilization, to make use of the materials that you have available to you through your own churches, right? Most of the churches I know are doing virtual services, right? A lot of them, I know our church, Mount Olive, they keep them online. Go back and watch the service, right? Maybe there's a message that you missed. My spouse happens to sing in the choir. I go back and watch him singing, right? I have it on my phone. I can access it easily. It's on YouTube. And so those things are important for the connectedness and to keep us from feeling isolated, right? In addition, we want to be thinking about staying informed in responsible ways, right? I'll say quickly, you curate your news, which means what? You don't sit in front of that TV all day. You don't leave NPR on all day, taking all that stuff in. It is not healthy. It's not good for your mental health. You control the time you allocate to worrying, right? So people like me, worry warts, what I do, I give myself, and I used to think it was so weird when people said it, but it's the truth. You give yourself 30, 20, 35 minutes to worry. That's when you get to worry about everything. Once that time is over, your requirement is to stop worrying. Go consume yourself with other things, right? So you have to control how much time you spend, worrying about things, right? Turn off the television. Turn off the iPad. Turn off the cell phone, right? Give yourself a break. Sometimes you have to get away from the news because it's often not good for our mental health, especially those of us who are of color, who are Black, because there's so much negative, particularly these days with this administration that we're seeing. And then finally, just as an example, get off of NPR. Just because it's available doesn't mean you have to listen to it on an endless loop, right? So hopefully nobody works for NPR. You won't be offended, but I want you to know sitting and consuming that news all the time is not healthy. All right. Then when we think about an additional how, best practices, think about them lessons you learned when you were growing up. We all have lessons. My grandmothers were Mama Alice and grandmother. Those are my paternal and maternal grandmothers, respectively. There's so many things I can still quote that they taught me that are good and useful for my life. right? One that came from my great grandmother to my grandmother to my mama to me, which is very helpful for me, is that first one. If you're going to worry about it, don't pray. And if you're going to pray, don't worry. It used to be you pick one and then the other one doesn't exist. I don't really interpret it like that right now. How I interpret it is, if you're going to pray, you pray for the gifts and talents and tools to help you manage the worry, right? And then you really just shouldn't worry. But you can't just decide, oh, I'm not going to worry anymore, and it goes away. You have to actively work on preventing the worry, going back to the previous slide. So you've got to do something to take care of yourself so that you don't worry so much, right? Sunshine is the best disinfectant. My brother taught me that. To me, what that means is you have to shine light on a problem or an issue to be able to work on it and fix it, right? So there are things that come in everybody got skeletons. Everybody. No one is immune, right? And so for those of us who are trying to work on healing, we have to be willing to go back and look at what some of these concerns and issues are to be able to heal them. Now, I'm not saying you go dig them all up and try to fix them at once. No, what I'm saying is you pick low-hanging fruit. For me, for example, it was acknowledging that anxiety was something that I have and anxiety is in my family, right? I don't think anybody before me had really acknowledged and accepted that there's a side of our family where that anxiety is genetic and getting passed down, right? Once I understood it, I started having conversations with my children. Look, anxiety's on mommy's side of the family, which means there's a likelihood that you're going to have it. So I'm going to need you to start doing stuff now to take care of yourself, right? So sunshine is the best disinfectant. And then always remember, our ancestors are with us. Always. The people who came before us, who paved the way for us to be where we are right now, whether those are blood relatives, whether those are people we know who are our cultural icons, whether those people you know from church. Somebody built that church you go to. Somebody got together and decided we need to have a church here in this space. Even if we don't have a building, it's going to be a group of us who are going to get together in that school gym or in somebody's house until we build it into something else, right? That's important. We have to acknowledge that and remember that. And that always gives me strength. So I happen to be a person who I've lost my mom about 14 years ago to pancreatic cancer, but she's always with me. And so remembering, that's one of the teachings of our church, is that our ancestors are always with us, or our various churches. And so remembering that helps us, can help us in times of need. All right. So I'm Gen X, as I said before. I grew up on hip hop. And there's an old group called Goody Mob, and their song was you need to get up, get out and get something. It was Goody Mob and Outkast. I can't remember whose song it was, but that's important. It's that messaging, right? You do need to get up. You do need to get out in safe ways. Wear your masks. Everybody wear your masks. And you do need to get something. In other words, like you see in this picture, this older gentleman is being helped by, looks like the grandbaby and the daughter, right? That's the idea. Even if you need a walker to get out and get something, you've got to do something rather than just sit and stew. Because the more you sit, the heavier it's going to weigh on you, the worse you're going to feel. So remember, get up, get out and get something. Okay. And so finally, as we close out, we want to think about, I want to remind you that you're not alone, right? A lot of people will say, but I live alone, but I don't have a person I'm dating, but I don't have, my best friends don't live near me, but I live by myself. Yes, but you still have a whole virtual community that cared enough about you, right, to ask me to come. I mean, honestly, who wants to talk about mental health? Nobody. But Rodney and the folks who organized the conference decided, oh, this is an important topic. We're going to bring somebody in who cares about us as people of color, who cares about us as Black people, and she's going to speak to us with the real. She's going to give it to us straight, right? And so knowing that, just remember that somebody took the time, and then you have a whole list of people who are going to be on today who are sharing part of their Saturday with you to teach these classes. So that should be your clue, if nothing else. You're never alone, right? You're never alone. And so in closing, what I want to remind us, we have 2 or 3 more slides and then we're done, is that pride is useless. You got to ask for help. You got to call somebody, right? And remember, as I just said, you have to ask for help. So you may be physically alone in your house or your apartment or your townhouse or wherever you live, but you don't have to be lonely. There are people who are willing to support and take care of you, right? So we're going to go back. You see, I'm reflecting my church home, Mount Olive. my nonprofit, the Acoma Project. So remember, I want you to stay connected. I want you to stay informed responsibly. Remember, I said, don't sit and watch that news all day. I want you to remember your wisdom from your culture, your cultural wisdom, Big Mama, Grandpa, Madia, there's lots of wisdom there. So call on that wisdom and then get up and actively do something. That's all of those things are important. So those are the messages that I want you to take away with you. Stay connected, stay informed, use that intuition and mother and father wit, and then get up and actively do something. Remember, I said active coping is what's important. So I just want to alert you to some resources. There's the web address. You might take a screenshot if you want. For the Acoma Project, we have free resources on our website. I would really encourage you to go take advantage of those because we just want you to have some little tips and things that you can do. Then finally, this started as a free virtual therapy program between my foundation and Taraji Henson's foundation, but it has evolved. We've received a lot of funding to support specifically, the majority of our funding that we've received in the last 2 months is to provide free virtual therapy for Black women. But we do have a smaller pot of money to provide those free services also for young men too. So a larger pot of money for young women, we provide 5 free sessions of virtual therapy. You go to the website, it's a really simple sign up form. Fill out the form and give us about 3 to 4 days and we'll get you connected with someone and pay for 5 visits of care. So it's just something to think about. It's something that might be useful to you and it's something that we want to offer because we know how important, clearly, everyone's mental health is. All right. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think we're back, sir.
Well, this has absolutely been awesome, off the chain.
Thank you.
Alfie, we really thank you for sharing with us. I'm going to put you here on some questions very quickly. Certainly, I'm going to invite everybody to put your questions in the chat box, which will allow us to field these questions to Dr. Alfie. And Dr. Alfie, one of the things I really want to talk about very quickly is I'm going to use the stigma of going to a therapist. You know, if I can share a little bit, when my mother died in 2017, I went to a therapist for the sake of not really mourning her death, but really figuring out what were the next chapters in my life. After you take care of someone for 32 plus years, being a father for 2 kids, and matter of fact, the week after my mother's funeral, one child, my youngest child, wound up graduating from school. So it was a change in my life for really, what is the next chapter? Where do I go? But there is a stigma, certainly in the African American society, that if I go to a therapist, I'm labeled as crazy. Can you talk a little bit about that and that stigma, as well as the benefits of a mental health therapist?
Yeah, so I think stigma, I understand the stigma, right? Because I always say the same thing. We did a research study years and years ago when I was on faculty at Duke and in the School of Medicine, and a sister, she crystallized it for me. And we actually published a lot of what she said. What the sister said was, I'm already Black, I'm already a woman, I don't also need to be crazy. And I think that really sums up a lot of why mental illness is so stigmatized in our community. It's because we as Black people already have enough people of color, and then I think about like the other identities. If young people or people are queer, if they have a disability, a visible disability, there are all these layers to who we are as people that other people sort of use to discriminate or push us out to the margins. And so what's important to me is that's why I said earlier in the presentation, you might be marginalized, but you're not marginal. And I think it's important to say that, because if we recognize that we are human beings, fearfully and wonderfully made, then we also recognize that when something's wrong, we have a responsibility to go fix it. So if you break your leg, you don't walk around and be like, oh, people are going to pick on me because I got a broken leg. No, you go get your leg set in a cast and get it fixed. If you have a chronic illness, right? Like if you have, I don't know, like diabetes or lupus or things like that, you're going to do what you need to do to take care of yourself to get better. Mental health is literally no different. And so the stigma is real. I do think it has to do with the fact that we already have all these other things weighing on us as Black people. We don't need extra layers of stigma or discrimination attached to us. And so I just always try to encourage people, you deserve the same kind of mental health as you deserve good physical health. So you deserve optimal physical health, you deserve optimal mental health, and we just have to do things to make sure that that mental health is taken care of. But it's a great question, and yes, it is super stigmatized in communities of color. Yes.
And, and the other thing is that certainly we have in the NCGC family, and it's no dish against anybody who's watching, we have a very strong contingent of folk who are seniors. And one of the questions that I saw in our chat line is dealing with, say, the mental health or the challenge of growing old. Certainly, I won't say my age, but as I grow old after I've turned in the 50s, and I'm somewhere in those 50s, it's the reality of accepting the fact that you can't do all the things that you used to do. That becomes physically challenging, physically, not only physically, but mentally challenging to accept where I am in life. Can you speak a little bit about what that looks like and what that feels like? And how do we deal with the idea of growing old?
Yes. And so I always say we have to reframe our language, right? So words matter, right? We used to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That's not true. Words can hurt just as much, as sometimes worse than the physical battering or whatever that we might, physical punishment or whatever, bullying. So when I think about age, I like to think about it as we have the opportunity to grow older. It doesn't mean that we're growing old, because it's almost like there's an end point. You get to a point and now you old and you just old. No, the blessing, right? It is all in how we look at it. The blessing is that we're still here and we're still aging, right? I shared just now, my mom passed. My mom was 60. She had just turned, she was like a month past her 60th birthday. She's gone, right? And so I'm in my 50s. I try to be very honest. I'm 51. So I try to be super honest about, where I am in my life. And then, I try to reframe it in a way that allows me to feel confident and good. So I look at my peer group. The people who are 51 right now are Jay-Z, J-Lo, Jamie Foxx might be like 52. So I'm looking at these folks and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can do this 50. So it really is about, you think about people who are in their 60s, that's Oprah. Oprah's just turning 60. Barack Obama just turned 59. He's right on the cusp of 60. And then there are older people like Helen Mirren, the big British actress. She's like in her 70s. Tina Turner, look how amazing she looks in her 70s. So I think I try to look at these models of what it means to enjoy and embrace and be comfortable with my aging. No, you can't do what you used to do, but guess what? When you were younger, you didn't have the wisdom that you have now, right? So there are things that you gain and maybe there are things that you lose, but you haven't lost anything because you're still here. So maybe, no, you can't go do 25 backflips, but what you can do is sit down and educate a younger person who's going through some struggles that you no longer have gone through because you've been there, done that. So it really is about how we choose to frame these things for ourselves. And I try, I'm not saying I'm always good at it, but I try really hard to always be thinking about what is the positive side of it. So I hope that helps.
That absolutely helps. Hey, we're almost out of time, but I do have one question. Pat Ziegler on Facebook asked, what does depression, anxiety look like for young people? We also have a lot of young people. Can we address that very quickly before we go?
Very quickly. So I got like 4 minutes. So basically what in young people, what you're looking for is you're looking for significant changes in their behavior. That's the most important thing. But guess what? You got to know what regular behavior looks like for the kids in your life to know when it changes drastically. So you're looking at, like I said, changes in eating habits, changes in sleeping habits. A lot of times with teenagers, what you'll see is that irritability, right? And people say, oh, but that's all teenagers. Well, irritability is, but for an extended period of time, and any teeny tiny little thing sets them off. That's when you really need to be paying attention to, well, maybe I need to go talk to somebody. Plus, I will always also say, you got to use that intuition, right? If you think something is wrong, it is incumbent upon you to check. The most important thing that you can do with our teenagers is you have to talk to the young people. If you're not engaged in regular communication with young people, it is that much harder to then try to get in a conversation with them about their feelings, because Their attitude is, you don't talk to me no other time. Why are we trying to talk now? And so the key is be in communication all the time. That's one, as much as possible. Pay attention to what that child's behavior looks like normally so that you can see the variations. Irritability is often a big key, a big signal for our Black and brown children. So hopefully that's helpful.
That is absolutely spot on. Thank you. And I appreciate that shout out. I'm not going to talk about that church, Mount Olive, that you go to, because I don't know who the minister of music is.
It's the bomb. That's all I'm saying. He the bomb. Thebomb.com.
Bless your heart. Hey, tell us real quick again, how can we reach out to you on social medias?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook under Dr. Alfie, DrAlfiee. You can see it under my name, Dr. Alfie, just that first part. LinkedIn, and then I have a website, dralfie.com. And then I have all the socials for Acoma Project, which was on here earlier. You're probably going to save the video. AAKOMA Project, one word, .org. And that'll take you to all the socials as well.
Dr. Alfie, we give you a round of applause. We thank God for your spirit, your wonderful grace of being with us. And we appreciate you. All right?
Of course.
Take care.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
Okay, you too.
Hey,
God bless you.
God bless you as well. Hey, guys, look, we're going to come back very briefly. We thank Dr. Alfie for sharing with us, and you're tuning in now to the 87th National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses, the Training Institute under the direction of the Althea Hutchinson. I'm going to get that right before today ends. Althea Hutchinson's Training Institute. Hey, we have Earl Bynum coming up next to teach, to share with us. But before we do, we've been blessed all week long with wonderful music. And as we talk about mental health now, this song blessed us on Wednesday night during President's Night. Let me also interject right here is that it was the idea and the conception of our president, Dr. Gentry, to bring mental health to us this morning. And I appreciate Dr. Gentry for bringing that idea to us. So Dr. Gentry, I know you're watching us. Thank you so much for that insight. Hey, we're coming up with Earl Bynum, but just before we do, be blessed by this song that blessed us on Wednesday night by Kathy Taylor called God is With Us. Be blessed.
To the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses and Dr. Mary Beth Gentry, let me say I love you with all my heart, and I so miss being with you this week. But I wanted you to remember that whatever we're going through and what you're feeling right now, remember God is with us. Sometimes life can change suddenly, and you find it hard to even breathe. So used to being strong, now I'm barely hanging on. Gotta stand tall, or too many would fall. What would people say if they knew I felt this way? Then God gave me this refrain, and I'll never be the same. He reminded me that He would always be with us. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Lo, I stick closer than a brother. Be of good courage. Hold on, my sister, my brother. Be strong in the Lord. God is with us. Oh, yes, He is. I will not leave you, no. I will not leave you. Jesus said, I will not leave you. I will not leave you. Neither will I forsake you. I'm a living witness. He won't forsake. He won't forsake you. Remember, God is with us. Even right here in the pandemic, God is with us. God with us. God is with us. Emmanuel. Hallelujah to the Lamb of God. Forever and always, God is with us. No, never alone. No, never alone. He promised never to leave me, never to leave me. God is with us right here, right now. God is with us, and He walks with me, and He talks with me, and He tells me I am His own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever. God is with us. Ooh, God is with us.
My God, that song blessed me. I was preparing for the convention all week long and heard that clip sent to me, and tears just came down my face. Certainly, throughout what we go through, God is with us, and He's been with us all week long. Again, you're sharing with the 87th National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. right here for the virtual classes here on Saturday. And I'm so delighted to bring to us our newest dean. He's just been appointed dean, and he is responsible for bringing all of these folk to us. Dr. Kevin Parrott. Doctor, are you there?
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It is good to see you. We appreciate you being with us. Why don't you come on and greet us? I know that you are newly appointed to as the dean of our school. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And why don't you greet us?
Well, good morning to all of you, and thank you all so much for sharing with us this week during our virtual convention. It has been an absolute blessing, and it's been a blessing because of you. And so thank you so much for tapping in and joining us this week, and especially today with our classes. So many thank yous to give to our illustrious president, Dr. Mary Beth Gentry, and to our chairman, Bishop Morgan, and to our virtual convention engineer, that man himself, Brother Rodney Whitney. Listen, he doesn't have to ever worry about me trying to do anything of his, because I don't know the first button to push. So, Brother Rodney, you and your team, thank you so much. And to our assistant dean, Sister Marsha Lewis. And oh my goodness, to that great speaker that was on this morning, thank you so much, Dr. Noble, for blessing us this morning with relevant information in helping us to get through these trying times. For he promised never to leave us alone. So thank you. And also to the man that paved the way for me, Dr. Moyer. Thank you so much, sir, for your divine mentoring and your connection. So once again, thank all of you, and to our instructors for this week. You are in time for a blessing with our instructors. They are competent and capable, and so I'm excited about them coming. Listen, stay close and connected with the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses and the Althea Hutchins Training Institute. I want you to be ready, because in the future we'll be having classes online between conventions, so you don't have to wait all the way to convention time for classes. So be ready to join us during that time. So thank you all so much for being here this morning. I don't want to take any more time away from this great instructional time. So, Brother Whitney, thank you once again, and Dr. Gentry, and to all of the board and staff of the National Convention, and all of our instructors here at the Althea Training Institute. You all be blessed for the remainder of the day. I'll look forward to serving and chatting with you soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. We are so delighted that you're with us now. I believe that a young lady who works along with you may be on this Zoom with us as well. I'm going to check here and see if she is sharing with us. Let me just check here very quickly. Oh, one moment. Gallery view. Here we go. This is Miss Marsha Lewis. Marsha, why don't you say hi to us? Good morning. I know that you are working along. Introduce yourself and tell us who you are and how you're sharing with us.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to see all of you on the call today. My name is Marsha Lewis. I am from the Goodwill Musical Union, and I serve with Dr. Parrott as the Assistant Dean of the school. I hope you have a wonderful time today and that you learn a lot, and we look forward to seeing you face to face in 2021 in New Orleans.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bless both of you again. Thank you. We're looking for some wonderful, exciting things in New Orleans when we get to New Orleans next year. And I know you guys have already started working on that. So there's more to come throughout the year. I understand that, Dr. Parrott, you have some things that you already want to share and plan throughout the year. So we're going to wait on those, and we're excited about what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started. God bless you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
So, guys, again, we are delighted that you're with us again, and we are going to move straight ahead. There's a young man that's going to come share with us, Mr. Earl Bynum. I want to share with you his information. Earl Bynum is an international recording artist who has been, he's a producer, a radio host. He is a wonderful, wonderful musician in his own right. We have been blessed by many of the different music that he has given us. Many of you know his songs of I Have No Doubt and Psalm 117. The Mount Unity Choir, under his direction, was voted the Steve Harvey's Neighborhood Award Best Church Choir. They also received the Choir of the Year Award at the Gospel Blue Mic Awards, the Texas Music Excellence Awards, and earned the Album of the Year title at the DMV Christian Music Awards. Known as Mr. International, Brother Bynum has completed 22 world music tours in the country of Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Denmark, and Japan, and many, many, many more. He works with, I'm excited that he's always sharing with us at the Hamptons Ministers Conference, where I have delighted to be the assistant to the director of music for the conference. And currently he is the choir director, coordinator, and board member of the Gospel Heritage International Worship Summit, led by president and recording artist Vasan Mitchell. He has completed a solo CD project entitled The Song Is For You. This was nominated for a Dove Award and is currently nominated for the 2020 Stellar Gospel Music Awards. Brother Earl, God bless you, sir. It is good to see you. It is good to see you. How is everything?
All is well. I mean, you know, we're living in this new norm as best we can.
Amen. I know that you have exciting things planned for us this morning, so I don't want to delay time, and may God bless you, and you go right ahead, sir. Bless us.
All right. Bless you. I want to say good morning to all of those who are watching and on. God bless you, and thank you to Dr. Parrott, of course. Wow. How I met him, and I'm not going to take too long because I know we got to get right into the next instructor, but meeting him years ago at the Hampton Ministers Conference, as well as his choir, my choir, both being nominated for the Steve Harvey Neighborhood Awards. And what God just knows how to place people and when to place people in such a time for you to be called, and he called me. So thank you. And thank you to Dr. Gentry and Brother Whitley, of course, amazing to work with at the Hampton Ministers Conference. So good to be here. Listen, I'm going to try. Now, I'm not a tech, but I'm going to try to share a screen with you guys. And if it don't work for me, I got the information. But I'm excited. We're going to talk about some things here. And I'm going to go to this shared screen. And let's see, can I make it happen for you guys? All right, hopefully you all can see that. Can y'all see that? I can't hear Brother Whitley, but I'm assuming you can. Got it. Okay, wonderful. Now, we're talking about the church choir singing in a strange land. And my God, it is strange right about now, during and after a pandemic, and virtual singing. So I'm going to try to focus on the virtual singing because people have called and asked, how did we do what we did? So I'm at the Mount Global Fellowship of Churches. I'm the executive director of music, worship, and arts there in Chesapeake. We have 8 campuses, actually, but my main location is the Chesapeake location, which is the headquarters. So we're going to deal with that. The first thing you need to do, because we have little time, is build a team. It's very important that you have a team. The thing is, we can't do everything, and we have to figure out what is someone's highest, best use and use them for what they do best. Because a lot of us can do several things, and that's the key. You can do several things, but what do you do best that you can add to your team to make whatever the vision is work for where you're going? Because again, we're dealing with this, what some would call this new norm. So how do we deal with this new norm, being that many of us or several of us may be directing or part of choirs that are larger than the numbers they are allowing us to have at one moment? So how do we deal with that? Man, that's the question I even still have today. So what I have done is broken things down into teams. And my thing is, because our choir is so large, we usually break teams down into 7 or 8 people at a time. So that's what we're trying to do, no more than 9. But then you have to deal with, you got a band. So you have the band plus your team. So those are numbers. And doing virtual, you now have the media team, or the production team that's a part of that. So your numbers continue to grow and grow and grow. So how do you get through that? But first is building a team, building a successful team. That's the first thing. I'm going to keep moving. If you have questions, definitely you can ask. I'm going to do that at the end. Then having a creative director. I thought this was interesting. Being in this new pandemic, or in this pandemic, should I say, in this new norm, we decided to get a creative director. During this time, you have to be very creative on how do you move during this season. The thing is, I don't know, and I'm not sure if we'll ever go back to how we were. And so how do you come up with concepts and things that can allow you to be active and still moving? Because if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 plus people in your choir, how do you keep them active? Well, we decided let's bring in a creative director. And his job is to think and create and come up with concepts that we can use during this time. And then how do we even transition out of where we are into what would not be the new norm? Hopefully we can go back and, hopefully we can sing together once again. We don't know. But his job is to be very creative and pull his team together as creative director and come up with concepts and ideas to help us to move forward. After that, you come up with a media director. You need a media director, someone who can focus strictly on filming and videoing and making sure that everything that you're putting down from the creative director, because think about it, it's virtual. So by it being virtual, you got the creative director on one side. Now you got the media director who handles whatever the vision is, or let's say the creatives that the creative director has come up with. Now take that to the media director, and that media director have to come up with the concept of how do we make these numbers work? How do we spread people out according to what our state, city, or the government is saying, however we're set up, wherever we are, and how do we make this work? So that's the media director's job. From that point, you go and get audio sound technician. Now, the audio sound technician is very important. One, because we're not in-house per se, we're streaming. So you have to find someone who is technically sound enough to understand the streaming format as well. Because I've learned, or we have learned in this, even before this new season, what I found is our streaming didn't always sound like what we thought we sound like. And I'm sure if you have had the opportunity to stream through this time, or stream ministries and things throughout even your career, what you think you hear in the house is not always what you hear through stream, depending on how your audio tech, all of that is set up. So it's very important that you have a great audio sound technician who understands this process. And because their job is to mix this thing as good as possible, especially if you're live. Now, there are some people who are doing live and some are pre-recording. We have been and I'm giving you my experience. We have been pre-recording since March, all right? Starting September, first Sunday in September, we are literally going live. So it'll be the pastor, the team, the band live, okay? But we've had the opportunity to pre-record, so you have the opportunity by pre-recording to actually get a better mix, to even do overdubs and fix things. But live, it's straight in. Whatever you give is what people gonna get. So it's very important that that audio sound technician is on point. Then you need a music director, I would say. Some said an MD, and that music director, in my case, his job is to make sure that everyone in that band knows what they are to do and understands their lane. That music director also works along with, I would say, the minister of music, director of music, music pastor, executive director of music, however you want to put it. I think, again, going back to the first thing I said, the team. Everybody's a part of the team. Everyone has a lane in which they should be in. However, the team collectively need to work together, and everybody need to know everything so all of us can flow. All right, so music director. After that, you need singers. Of course, you need singers. Okay, now you have to decide, and you have to decide not with your heart. You have to decide with your head and break this thing down and understand, okay, I need singers, but you need singers who can handle now singing on a mic by themselves. That is so important. All right, collectively with everybody together, you know how we can have some great singers, not so great singers, and we put them all together and together. Someone said to me one time, everybody in your choir can sing. I said, no, we sing better together. We are better together. It doesn't mean that everybody in the choir, they're great singers. It's just that as a director, you need to know how to assist in making what you have work. And it doesn't matter, you guys, don't get caught up in whether you got 5 singers, 10 singers, none of that matters. What matters is get your best and put your best forward, because now in this day and time, every one of us listening and watching have the opportunity to visit anybody's church in this new normal, because all of us are online for the most part. So it's very important that you put your best foot forward. Again, don't judge this with your heart, judge it with your head. And then those singers that you may not be able to use right now, as we're talking about dealing with this new norm, what do you do with them? Find other ways. That's when you go back to the creative director and have them to come up with concepts and things that you can do, even with singers who may not right now be on the mic. We have a certain group of singers who are singing throughout this new norm every week that we pre-record. Do I think some of those who are not singing feel some kind of way? Yes, they do. So the thing is, with a creative director and you as a leader, how do you come up with concepts to keep them involved and to keep what some say the drama down as much as possible? So make sure you got the right singers. After you do that, you need a mixing engineer. This is so important. So important. Your audio tech person may not be a great mixing engineer. They may be a good audio sound for live sound, but mixing is a totally different thing. Now, some can do both, okay? So don't get me wrong. You may have that one person that can do both. But if you don't, you may have to spend some money, a little bit of money, and send your pre-recorded music out for Sundays and get somebody to mix and engineer that thing, because you want to put your best foot forward. And it doesn't cost a lot. It doesn't have to cost a lot. And I tell people all the time, check within your congregation. A lot of times we have people sitting in our congregation who do things that we don't even know they have those gifts. So the gift may be sitting in your sanctuary or a part of your ministry, should I say. So definitely find out if you got a great mixing engineer and use that engineer and see where you can go from there. Now, this is the thing I want to ask. I have a few questions and you can write them down and think about this even through your process. First, what is working? What is working now? All right. What was working before this new norm? All right. Second question, what is not working? And be honest. What is not working? What is working? First question. What is not working is your second question. Next thing, what was your greatest success last year? Now, you're in a new season. We're in a new norm. But what was your greatest success last year? Figure that out. So again, what is working? What is not working? What was your greatest success last year? Then, this question right here. Ask yourself and be honest. What's dead or dying? All of us know. What is dead or dying in our music ministry? And be honest with yourself. Now, understand that numbers change, but the issues remain the same. So we have to deal with these questions. What is working? What is not working? What was our greatest success last year? What's dying or not dying? Understand, numbers change, but the issues remain the same. Then figure out as a leader, for those of you who are a leader and you're on this call, if you're over your music ministry in some way or ministry period, ask yourself, what defines you? That's a good question. What defines you? Second question, what are your deliverables? All right. Third question, what is your delivery system? Now, that goes back to your team. If you have a team, there is a process. And if everybody is staying within their lane, we can all get through this new norm. So what is your delivery system? And then who is driving you? It's so important that every leader up here have someone who can motivate you and encourage you to keep going, even in this new norm that we call. You need to have someone who can push you. Find that person who can push you and encourage you to keep going, even when you feel like giving up, because we will get there. We will get to the point that we don't feel like doing what we're doing. And you have to have someone in your corner that believes in you, that can encourage you and push you to this in this season and to the next season. And understand this, you don't define your brand. When I talk about brand, who is the brand? For all of us up here who are working in a ministry, the brand is Jesus outside of your church. Okay, so you got Jesus, church, because all of us ought to be wanting to, with excitement to introduce people to Jesus through our music ministry. Okay, so that's the first thing. So your brand is Jesus and your church ministry. So understand that your brand, you don't define your brand. Your congregation, which are your customers, defines your brand by their giving, tithing, and all of that, especially if we are paid musicians or paid instructors or paid ministers of music. Your brand is defined by your congregation and your customers. All right. So that's what I have for you guys right now. I got so much more. I have questions and answers. This is my information. You can contact me. That's my website. You can email me at earlbynummusic@gmail.com if you have any questions at all. I do have a virtual video if we have time. If not, I will not play it. That's
right
totally
ahead,
up
sir.
to you.
Go right ahead.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to share this with you guys now. And speaking on everything I talked about, let me see, screen share is that, okay. Speaking on everything I've talked about, this is what we came up with that team through these things that I have shared with you. So let me get to this and yeah. Let me know, Brother Rodney, if this is coming up.
While he's doing that, certainly if you have questions, why don't you put the questions in the chat room? And Brother Earl as well, what kind of time does it take in order to do a virtual process that you have experienced from start to finish?
It's a whole lot of time. It really, really is. The virtual that I'm about to show you was our complete choir. Now, the thing is, first of all, you got to figure out the song you're going to do. Then you have to come up with that concept of making sure clearly each singer that you either email it to, text it to, if you're in Box or if you're in Band app. There's so many ways to stay in contact, but if you're doing that, make sure they fully understand the process of recording, because you got to send them the song. They have to listen to the song on one device, record themselves on another device, and then make sure that the device is actually vertical.
16 by 9. 16 by 9.
Yeah. And you got to make sure all of that. But again, we are dealing with people who are choir members who may not understand the process. So you got to have enough patience to understand. So you're going to get some videos and they're not even correct. So we had videos that come in that we could not use because the process of understanding the first process is them recording themselves on one device, listening through another device. All right. Once you get that in, then you have to take that, line it up, get it to the engineer who can line all that up. The process is long. Let me just say the process is long. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it, but it's long. So you got to have patience and don't rush the process. If it's not what you like, go back, try it again. because we tried through Zoom and figured out you can't do it through Zoom. So we had to figure out another process and how to do it. Basically.
Certainly. So while you're getting that video together, guys, I want to just share with you, this is not an endorsement for any particular product. My choir also did a virtual choir project as well. Yeah, amen. Praise the Lord. Amen. But one thing that I did in my particular project is that I started with a company, if you go on a website called daywind.com, DAYWIND.com. There are so many gospel tracks that we sing music today on that particular website. You can purchase those tracks. And during this pandemic season, they have allowed us to use as many tracks as we want to use for a small nominal fee for each service. So let's say you wanted 10 tracks, and what Brother Bynum is sharing with you is that it does take time in order to get the music tracks together first. And then after the music track is set, you take that track, send it out to all your choir members, and then after that music track is set. So this is half the battle. Certainly, again, it's not an endorsement, but it has helped my choir tremendously to use daywind.com. All of our latest gospel music tracks are on there. These are tracks that you use as a singer for accompaniment tracks, and it's a wonderful start to this virtual process. Brother Earl, are you ready for that?
I am ready, and that was good you talked about those tracks, and we were fortunate enough, so if you are a choir out there and you already have your own tracks, we had our own track for this particular one. But what he said about Daywind, that's a great tool, you guys. Definitely jump on it. Let's see if it's working. Can you see that, yes or no?
No, sir, not yet.
What about now?
Yes, sir. You want to
the Bible
maximize that
says,
for me?
praise the Lord, all ye nations, praise the Lord.
Were you able?
Yeah, we're able to see it. Why don't you maximize it on the screen in that little corner
Praise
there.
the Lord, all ye people, praise the Lord. I want to encourage you, but I don't
Keep rolling. Start the track there. There we go.
want to do it by myself. So I brought along some of my friends. Come on, come on.
So what I did, I was live, but the choir was virtual.
Praise the Lord.
Gotcha.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. All ye people. Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. All ye nations. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Dr. Earl, that looks wonderful, man. And we really appreciate it.
Say that again.
I said, I'm going to have to end here. We're out of time, but that
Okay,
is
no
absolutely
problem.
wonderful.
No problem.
Real quick,
No problem.
I'm going to come back to you very quickly. Can you share with us very quickly, how can folk reach out to you? Where can we see you?
Yes.
All of those things. Tell us how folk can get in touch with you.
You can connect with me. I'm on every platform they try to say we got out here. So Instagram is Earl Bynum. Inbox me, Earl Bynum. Follow me. Look, I need some followers. So follow me. Earl Bynum, EARLBYNUM on Instagram. Twitter, Earl Bynum. Yes, I still have Twitter. Also, Facebook is Earl Bynum Music. Please like my music page. You can contact me. Email me if you need me for your ministry for whatever reason. Because of my brother Whitney, I will be right there with you. So let me know. God bless you. Thank you all. Thank you to the entire board of directors of this wonderful convention. I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless.
We thank you, Brother Earl. I look forward to seeing you hopefully at Hampton next year as well. Hey, guys, look, coming up, we have Alpheus Anderson, who's going to share an exciting class about children. He's really a youth magnet to youth ministry. So you want to stay tuned as well. Hey, we hope that you've been being blessed by these classes today. And certainly we want to just offer you opportunity to sow into the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. You've seen all week long opportunities in order to give. They're going to appear on the screen even now of ways that you can give. So we want you to be able to share, and if you want to lift an offering or give an offering in order to support the ministry, it's through your support that we're able to bring programming like this, not just here, but all through our social media platforms. So we want you to have an opportunity to share and give, certainly, and you would bless this particular ministry as well throughout the entire year. Hey, look, Brother Anderson is going to come up, but just before he do, again, we want to bless you with another video that you've seen all week long. It has blessed us by Kendall McDowell, entitled Jump In. Enjoy.
I'm not moving until I hear the sound of freedom and breakthrough in this room. I hear freedom. I'm gonna do it one more time till you got it. Say, I hear freedom. There's joy in the river. Peace in the river. In the river. Whatever you need is in this room. Whatever you need is in the river. There's grace flowing in this river. Grace in the river. Hope in the river. Hope in the river. Whatever you need is in the river. Say, there's love in the river. There's love in the river. Strength in the river. Strength in the river. Here it is. Whatever you need. So dive in the river. Cause there's so much freedom flowing in here. Whatever you need is in the river. This is what we're gonna do, church. Like, jump in. Jump in. Jump in. Jump in. There it is. Say jump in. Jump in. Say, there's joy in the river. There's joy in the river. Peace in the river. Peace in the river. Whatever you need is in the river. There's grace in the river. There's grace in the river. Hope is flowing in this room. Hope in the river. Whatever you need is in the river. There's love in this river. There's love in the river. Strength in the river. Strength in the river. Whatever you need is in the river. So dive in the river. Cause there's freedom in the river. Whatever you need is. Y'all ready? Let's go. Say jump in. Jump in. Say whoa. Jump in. Jump in. Hey, whoa. Jump in. Everybody jump in. Everybody jump in. Jump in. Whoa. Jump in. Jump in. Whoa. Jump in. Here's your part. I hear freedom. It's loud in my ear, so close I can feel. Say, I hear freedom. I hear freedom. It's loud in my ear. I can't hardly take it, y'all. Oh, I hear so close. One more time. Oh, I hear it's loud in my ear. So close. It's here. Let's have church. Yeah. Here it is. I've never been ashamed.
Well, everybody ought to just jump. Ooh, that was an exciting video, you know. It's just been blessing us all week long, all the videos that we've received. So certainly we thank Kingdom Medal for that video. Certainly, hey, look, we want to move forward. We want to stay on point. And we have this brother who's going to come and share with us. Let me just share a little bit about who he is. Alpheus Anderson is the author of Youth Magnet. He is also the founder of Gain Maintain, a platform dedicated to providing cutting-edge strategies, training modules, and courses to coach leaders as they work to attract and empower youth. He's a graduate of Anderson University with a Bachelor's of Art in Christian Ministry and a minor in music. Alpheus is an inductee of the Anderson University's Distinguished Alumni and is currently a teacher at the University of South Carolina Upstate, where he instructs the gospel choir class. Alpheus has proven techniques and training for churches and organizations that want to become youth magnets. He is his one-of-a-kind techniques for social medias on YouTube and his website. His abilities to connect with youth is second to none. Alpheus speaks to thousands of schools, youth throughout our churches, communities, and schools and revivals. He has taught his youth ministry strategies and models at regional and national conferences like Gospel Heritage International Worship Conferences, founded by Dr. Teresa Harrison, who was with us this week. Vasan Mitchell, President Alpheus, is a regular at Schools of Method Association meetings and convocations. He is a recipient of the 2016 presidential Barack Obama's Volunteer Service Award, presented by Ambassador Leona Peterson. When not on the road training, speaking, and presenting, he can be found serving at the Equipping Center Church in Greenville, South Carolina. Pastor Hagers Hutchins. Hope I said that right. Brother Anderson, God bless you, sir.
Happy Saturday.
God bless you. Now, I kind of messed up a little bit of that. Tell us your pastor's name one more time at the church.
Pastor Hasker Hudgens.
Hudgens. All right, man. Look, we're excited that you're here. I'm really excited about this class because certainly you have written that book, Youth Magnet. Tell us a little bit about that book just before you start your presentation.
Yes, Youth Magnet. Thank you again. I'm just honored to be here. Youth Magnet is basically taking 5 elements to show churches and even schools how to attract and empower the next generation. You're going to hear me say a lot today: no youth, no church. Youth choirs and youth ministry has to be in the same conversation.
Amen. Well, look, we don't want to delay the time. You go right ahead and take it away.
All right. Hey guys, Alpheus Anderson here. I cannot express enough how excited I am to present to you today. I'm excited. I want to give honor to this great convention, to the founder, obviously the legend himself, Dr. Thomas A. Dorsey, even to this current president, Dr. Gentry. We honor you. To all of the board of directors, to all of the past presidents, and to you. If you're listening to me today, I want you to type in the chat. I want you to use the chat. If you're on social media, I want you to use the chat today. I am excited. I'm Alpheus Anderson. I founded a choir called Pure in Heart. God gave me a vision to start a children's choir, a community children's choir. I'm in college. I'm broke. I'm scraping up money to book a church, to get prizes, printing off copies for the lyrics. Guys, only 1 kid showed up for my rehearsal. Does that sound familiar? We do all of this planning for the next generation and only 1 kid showed up. But the miracle, in 30 days, from 1 kid to 125 kids, exactly. And over the years, we ended up with 402 students, kids and teens. What they didn't tell me was if I had 125 kids, Eventually, I will have 125 teenagers. All right. So we recorded over 10 projects. We've won 2 Stellar Awards. We won one last year. We've been nominated for a Dove Award. The biggest accomplishment is 402 students on one stage in front of me singing hymns, lifting up their hands, and enjoying gospel music. There's a quote by Thomas A. Dorsey that I love. He says, "We therefore rededicate our commitment to the future of gospel music." Every time I say future of gospel music, I want you to think next generation. There is no future without the next generation. We cannot talk about preserving youth choirs and getting the youth choir out of a museum without talking about youth ministry for about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. No youth, type this in the chat. No youth, no church. Over 7 million students will turn 18 in 2020. Think about that. Muse about that. Over 7 million students will turn 18 in 2020. I'm a millennial, and we're old news. It used to be that millennials. Some people say millennium, all right? But now it's off to Generation Z. How do you lead a youth choir during a pandemic? How do you engage students during a pandemic? All right. And so today, I don't know how we're going to cover this in a few minutes, but we must try. So if it seems like I'm ADD today, you have guessed correctly. I am going to be a little ADD. I'm going to jump around. First of all, ADD means anointed, dangerous, and disciplined. So we're going to jump around today. Today, I'm just giving us considerations as it relates to youth ministry, youth choir. I'm going to also be giving tips from my new book, Youth Magnet, my Youth Magnet course, my youth ministry, youth music, youth choir course. Type this in the chat. I want to lift this up again. We therefore rededicate our commitment to the future of gospel music. Every time I say future, insert the next generation. This convention would not live on without young people, without the next generation. No youth, no church. No youth, no youth ministry. No youth ministry, no youth choirs. A successful youth choir takes work, all right? It is not plug and play. It is not set it and forget it. A successful youth choir takes work, all right? We have to be willing to work. Offer to work, ready to work, and we have to have the keys to work. Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now to him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we ask or think, according to the power that works in us." I always say closed mouths don't get fed. When was the last time you sat and planned and mused and thought about youth ministry and thought about the next generation and really, really planned and asked God for wisdom on how to reach the next generation? We want to pack the choir stand, but we first must pack the youth ministry. We must pack Sunday school, all right? And we have to have the keys to work. The Bible says, "My people perish for the lack of knowledge." Perhaps what we don't know could be hurting the next generation. So notice I am emphasizing having the keys to work. Yes, we as choir directors, we have to know who's in front of us. These are students that are showing up in your choir stand. You're trying to figure out why they're uninterested. They got their cell phones out in your choir rehearsal, and you're like, how dare you got your cell phone out in my choir rehearsal? They're uninterested because they are consumed. They are under the influence of the culture, of this culture. What do I mean? I mean, when pastors preaching, they're on Finsta, not Instagram, Finstagram, all right? A couple minutes to get you out of the dark. These are the choirs. These are the students showing up in your choir. They're on Finsta. What is Finsta? Type in the chat. You say, bruh, I don't know what Finsta is. I know what Instagram is. I don't know what Finsta is. Finstagram. Finstagram is fake Instagram. Yes, your choir members, your students are on Finstagram. What is Finsta? Finsta is fake. Finsta, fake, fake Instagram. All right. So you got to do your research on that for the sake of time. Students are texting LOL. Now, first of all, this is the adult edition. So I'm going to give you 2 or 3. LOL means, type it in the chat real quick, laugh out loud. ETA means estimated time of arrival. TT. TTYL means talk to you later. Now, this is your choir members, your students edition. This is what they are texting. KPC, keep parents clueless. Type this in the chat. If you don't know, type a question mark, PAW. What is PAW? This is what your students are texting. Parents are watching. All right. Code 9 means parents are in the room. All right. 5 is an S, 3 is a backwards E, X. This is what your choir members are texting. So perhaps what we don't know could be causing them to perish. Why are you not singing? I'm trying to teach you. God is great. And they're texting CU, the number 4, 6. By the way, 6 is code for sex. All right. So this is what's going on here. They are cussing you out with 2 emojis. You saying, bro, what does this have to do with preserving the choir? What does this have to do with youth choirs? We have to juxtapose youth ministry and youth choirs. They have to be in the same conversation. Our students are on YouTube. They are on Snapchat. They are not on here. They're not on Facebook. Our students are on Snapchat. All right. They are on TikTok. I guess TikTok will be around for 20 more days. I'll let y'all worry about that. All right. They are taking these emojis, and this is going over our head. All right. And these are the students that we are trying to teach hymns, psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. So during the pandemic, what does a pandemic youth choir look like? Our students are being affected, yes, by this pandemic. See for yourself.
Now everything in this world has to shut all the way down to nobody has to go anywhere because they're shut down. The ice cream truck is shut down. Not even McDonald's, which is my favorite restaurant. It's really frustrating. I mean, why would germs come around to people if they don't want germs to come around to them?
Church too, we can't go to church.
Yeah, and it's just really fun.
We're going home church, that's why we're doing church on the TV, right?
But everything in this world has to be shut down, and it's not fair.
So as you can tell, this little girl is devastated. She's devastated. She can't go to church. She call it real life church. So what does pandemic youth choir look like? First of all, you as the youth choir director, These are times to be innovative. These are times you, the youth choir director, the minister of music, you are now the voice coach, all right? We don't feel comfortable meeting as a congregation. We don't feel comfortable meeting in large numbers, and rightfully so. So let's take advantage. I want to give you something very practical here. Let's take advantage of this time. Let's get our students on Zoom one by one, and you are now the voice coach. You are now the choir director, but yes, you are now building relationships with your choir. You are now keeping morale high. You saw the little girl, she was devastated. She could very well be your children's choir student. She could very well be in your children's choir. So now you, the choir director, you are now the encourager. You are now the person that's empowering the next generation. So when this blows, when COVID blows over and we get back to the next normal, as my wife say, there's going to be not a new normal, but a next normal. We have a group of loyal students because of our attention we are giving them during this pandemic. So just to recap, voice lessons, what would it look like for 1 hour? We're doing 10-minute voice coaching with our youth choir. Yes, they come on Zoom. We are assessing our students, and we're doing this OTL, on their level. What would it look like? I mean, this is biblical. This is a perfect time to follow the Levitical example. The Bible says in 1 Chronicles 25, verse 6, all these were under the direction of their father to sing in the house of the Lord with cymbals, harps, and lyres for the service of the house of God. Asaph, Jeduthun, I'm from Fafar, South Carolina, and Heman were under the direction of the king. Their number who were trained in singing to the Lord with their relatives and all who were skilled was 288. What am I suggesting? Consider training during this period, all right? Give attention to the next generation. Let's train up the next generation. Obviously, it has to be online, using virtual techniques and strategies. This is a perfect time to educate your choir members on the history of gospel music. I love the statement by our founder. We therefore rededicate our commitment to the future next generation of gospel music. The Bible says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly as you teach and admonish one another with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. How will the next generation learn psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs and the word of God? Because of the modern day Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun. You are the chief Levite, all right? We are the ones to train up the next generation. We are the ones that are not in the dark, mixed with innovation, mixed with great content. I'll say that one more time. We have knowledge mixed with innovation, mixed with great content. In this context is gospel music, which is built on the gospel of Jesus Christ through song. You can't lose. You can't lose. We will have a choir full of students that will skip basketball practice to come to my choir rehearsal. I'm telling you what I know. They will skip cheerleading practice and soccer practice and camp to come to your choir rehearsal. My secret sauce. Let's make every choir rehearsal, every choir event, every choir gathering a big deal. Every single time. Let's make it an event. Listen, guys, same message, but different methodology, all right? Same effort, same energy, same passion, but yes, it is now virtual. It is now online, all right? It is now digital. Don't let online intimidate you. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. Get some training, all right? Bring your personality here. Show up with your personality, mix with innovation, mix with great content. We can't lose. I want to end with some fun ways. I'm going to pretend that you are my students, all right? I am trying to preserve the things of God. I am trying to preserve psalms, hymns, spiritual songs. I am teaching, I am training. I'm pretending you are my virtual youth choir today, all right? So we can't meet. Sonically, it's not going to make sense through Zoom. Sonically, it's not going to make sense through Facebook Live, through Google Hangouts. It's not going to make sense through Google Meets. And so, again, we are leaning towards educating this season. All right, this season, we are building morale. We are having fun. We are keeping the students in front of the things of God. I am the youth choir director, but I am now the counselor. I am now the familiar. Listen, youth choir directors, we cannot be absent during the pandemic. Please do not throw the effort, the youth choir effort away. All right, that would be detrimental to the youth choir. Bring yourself passionate, engage with excellence. All right, our students are used to getting their phone and looking at BET, MTV, Disney, and it is excellent. The quality is there. All right, so first of all, our students know when we are throwing something together and saying, here, consume it, all right? They will check out on us in 2 seconds, all right? So we want to show up. We want to prepare OTL on their level. What I love about what we're about to do is what we should be doing with our youth choir during the pandemic, all right? Let's be relevant, let's be engaging, and use, I made up this word, all right? And I'll give it to you. It is called intertrain. Intertrain is entertaining and training, all right, mixed together. Every time we're training, we gotta be entertaining. Gone are the days of boring choir directors. Gone are the days of boring Sunday school teachers, all right? Please find something else for them to do because you are hurting the situation, all right? Intertrain, all right? We have to present great content, gospel music. They have to learn the songs, anthems, the history of gospel music. But consider inter-training, all right? So guys, let's inter-train. Name the 3 popular meters describing hymns in the Black church. Yes, this is my version of inter-training with my youth choir. It's competition, it's healthy competition. It is vibrant, it is familiar, it is relevant. I'm Alpheus Harvey. It's relevant. We have prizes. I also incentivize, all right? If we are not incentivizing in 2020, we're missing out, all right? So of course, common meter, short meter, and long meter. And so now 15 minutes, 20 minutes, my youth choir, they are coming to this choir rehearsal. I submit to you, if you want to call it something else, but it's still choir rehearsal. Make it an event, all right? Name the most popular hymns in the Black church. Amazing Grace, of course. Yes, Jesus Loves Me. We are now having a competition. We are competing to learn psalm hymns and spiritual songs, all right? We're giving out prizes. We are incentivizing. We are teaching what this convention stands for, but we are now intertraining, being engaging. Who is the founder of the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses? I know you know, but your students do not know. They may pick Thomas Edison. They may pick Thomas Johnson. They may pick James Cleveland, the late James Cleveland. But the answer is Thomas Dorsey. Intertrained Negro spirituals were also called not new songs, not gospel songs, not master songs, not hymns, but code songs. I wish I had time. During the time of slavery, I want to encourage those that feel like you are washed up, that you are not creative. Listen, pray and fast for creativity and innovation. Crack the Bible open, and you will be surprised what God drops in your spirit for the next generation. All right? You want to always use movement. You want to always use competition. You want to always use, obviously, a song. The Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. For example, love your neighbor as yourself, as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Man, you are absolutely...
Guys, I've enjoyed this time with you. I'm going to stick around for some questions and we can go deeper. Of course, visit my website and you can subscribe to hear some music. If you're in need of great children's music, if you're in need of great teen music, curriculum, and yes, we are committed. We therefore rededicate our commitment to the future, next generation of gospel music by not leaving the next generation hanging during the pandemic. God bless.
Alpheus, man, this has been an absolute blessing, sir. I mean, you have really blessed us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you, Dr. Parrott, and respect. Blessings.
Now, before you go, I know that we're behind time, but certainly I know that folk may have some questions for you. So if you have questions real quick for him, certainly put them in the chat line as we're watching the chat lines, and you can ask those questions as well. But hey, you know, I know that you just blew folk out the water with those hashtags. Now, what do you call them? Hashtags or sayings?
Yeah, just the text, just simple text messages, and of course the emojis. The Bible is true. We perish for the lack of knowledge.
You know, we're going to have to go around the United States and pick people up off the floor, you know, because some of our folk didn't know some of those hashtags.
Pastor Whitley, you can download the workbook to the presentation free on my website.
Certainly. Give us that website one more time.
It is gain weight doing COVID, but gainmaintain.com. Gainmaintain.com. I'll put it in the chat on Facebook as well. It's free.
Man, you have been an absolute blessing. I mean, social media is just on fire talking about what you've shared with us today, because oftentimes our children are either relegated to one segment of the worship service, but the inclusivity throughout not just one Sunday, or they have one Sunday. Talk just before you go. How do we approach that as far as inclusivity of youth and youth worship throughout every worship service that we experience?
You said it. You gave the answer. I always say, if you would include youth, they will be included. Consider giving them more than Fifth Sunday. I mean, even if you're the senior pastor and it's not Youth Sunday, if you just simply say, hey, young people, how's it going? If you teach it on Philippians 4:13, just simply take 2 minutes. You can say, get your hands up and say, I can do all things through Christ. This is a 10-finger scripture. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And then go back to hooping. And the Bible said, and then you have them locked in. You have them locked in. And so if you include them, you said it, they will be included.
Hey, man, we thank you for sharing with us. Real quick, tell us about your song. You were part of our Independent Artist Showcase this week, I believe on Thursday. And there's a song that you have called Change the World, I believe. Tell us a little bit about that. We're going to play it in between our next instructor who's coming. Tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. You see all the kids behind me. I can't claim any of these kids on my taxes, but we can have the 402 students on one stage to sing about racism, to address homelessness through the song. And the vamp of the song says you got to treat others. You got to treat others the way you want to be treated. And so it's put in the song. And then change the world. When you start with your neighbor, you can change the world, like the scripture says.
Man, we really appreciate that. You've been a blessing to us today. Look, we're coming up next is Dr. Winston Gray, right out of Baltimore, Maryland. He's going to come and share with us. But before we do, let's listen to that video by Brother Anderson entitled Change the World. God bless you. We'll be right back.
Racism, bullying, hunger, trafficking. When we start with our neighbor, we can change the world. When I walk by the homeless, I'll give a helping hand. When I see someone who's hurting, you can count on me.
When I see someone who's crying, I'll try to cheer them up. When I see someone who's sad, I will make them smile.
Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, we change the world.
Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, we change the world.
It's simple. When we start with our neighbor, we can change the world.
When I see someone who's thirsty, I'll offer him a drink. When I see someone who's hungry, they count on me. When I see someone who's lonely, I'll offer him a hug. When I see someone who's sick, she can count on me. Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, we change the world. Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, we change the world.
Let's unite, come together. When we start with our neighbor, we can change the entire world.
Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, we change the world. Change the world, change the world. When we start with our neighbor, 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 when we start with our neighbor.
It's time to stop stressing and thinking about your selfie, especially when you see somebody that needs some help me. Eyes wide shut, listen, she's saying I'm taking hands up, don't shoot, officer. Sorry, you're mistaken. Hey, it's a big world. B.I.G. don't let that stop you. Start with your brother, that's the least you can do. Don't walk by, you never excuse me, act like you ain't there. Treat him the way you wanna be treated. Give him a hug, smile, put you $1 a quarter, whatever you can spare. Who kind of treat us?
What a wonderful song. You know, the Bible simply says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And as we start with our neighbors, that is an absolutely wonderful song. Thank you, Brother Anderson, for blessing us through your class as well through your video today. We're going to move right on. We don't want to run out of time. So certainly we want to bring to you Dr. Winston Gray. Let me tell you a little bit about Brother Gray. It's a rare that anyone comes across a gifted musical genius like Dr. Winston R. Gray and realizes what they have just experienced. Yet, the mention of his name here in Baltimore, in the Baltimore community, invokes a musical tapestry that few could weave so well for over the last 30-something years. Development of Dr. Gray's unique music abilities is the direct result of God's own anointing in his life. Dr. Gray has served and blessed many churches, choirs, organizations, and soloists with his God-given gift of ministry of music for more than 30 years. He currently serves as the minister of music for the Community Baptist Church of Jessup, Maryland, under the pastorate of Reverend Frank J. Hines Jr. Dr. Gray holds a bachelor's degree of science in philosophy from Coppin State University, a master equivalent degree in education from Loyola College, music certificate from Towson State University, and an honorary doctorate degree of sacred music degree from Easton Theological Seminary in Lynchburg, Virginia. The Baltimore County Public School System employs Dr. Gray as the department chair for the music and special areas at the Northwest Academy of Health and Science. Dr. Gray also serves as the vice president, hear me out, the vice president of the Hampton University Choirs Director and Organist Guild. Under Dr. Gray's have served there for 25 plus years as the music director, also for the United Baptist Missionary Convention of the State of Maryland Incorporated Pre-Convention Choir. Lastly, Dr. Gray has traveled extensively throughout the United States, Europe, and South Korea, sharing his God-given gifts of music with singers, musicians, and church music lovers everywhere. He served as the director of music, organist, and pianist for many churches, schools, vocal groups, communities, organizations, and other Christian-related activities. Dr. Gray conducts his music seminars and workshops throughout the country and can be called upon at any time to provide special music for weddings and homegoing service. Well, Dr. Gray, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Brother Whitney. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. Amen. I love that part about the homegoing services because people don't know, but I play for a couple funeral homes here in the city of Baltimore. So, but no, man, you have extensive background, and certainly we've been friends for many years. It's so delighted that Dr. Parrott invited you to come share with us. And I know that you're going to be sharing about the ministry of music as far as directors. So tell us a little bit about your class, and why don't you get started? I'm going to turn it over to you even now. Go right ahead.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Rodney. It has been a pleasure. It is a pleasure to be with you all this morning. And thank you so much, Dr. Parrott, for allowing me this opportunity to share. A little bit different form for me. I was listening to Brother Earl earlier when he was talking about technology and challenges, but we're going to get through this. So with that being said, to our president, Dr. Gentry, to our chairman of the board, Dr. Morgan, definitely to our Dean, Dr. Parrott, and to all of you, it is such a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And even before I go into the presentation, I have to give a shout out to my Greater Baltimore Fellowship Choral Union family. Woohoo, Greater Baltimore. Thank you all so very much. My challenge this morning is to talk about the Minister of Music Choir Director leading in crisis. And all of us can definitely say that this is a challenging time for us as we face how we are functioning with our music in our churches. Churches are closed, the doors are closed, our music ministries are shut down, they are stagnant, they are dormant.